Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. V back with another casted game of Age of Empires 3, and we find ourselves on Pampus for a Japan versus France showdown. And this replay has been provided by the one, the only, my good friend and fellow caster, MFD, who is playing in the south of the map as the color blue and as the Japanese civilization, which has started to see a little more popularity. They are no longer seen as garbage tier, if they ever were. But man, if you let Japan get going, if you let those shrines get out on the map, those 5 shrine cards, which are absolutely redonkulous, they can be really, really formidable. But in the north of the map, playing in the color red as the French, we have Den Si. Not Dennis. Okay, this is a different Den. Maybe that's why he's got the CU. I don't know what that means. But he is going with a trading post. Very standard French. Although you do see French players tend to go with a market as well. I think both are viable. I think the trading post is slightly stronger, but I'm not a French main, so I hope I haven't spoken any blasphemy. Meanwhile, we see the Japanese player going around the map. MFD, I don't know how often he plays Japan, but he is scouting with his rickshaw, which is something you should always do because you will not need it right away. So you definitely don't want to walk it into your opponent's town center, but just scouting those other areas of the map and finding some llamas, which are going to be very good for Japan. He can put those by his shrines, and he can use them to gain resources and experience, sending 2 villagers as his first card. Has all of his vills on berries. Looking pretty good for MFD. Meanwhile, Den sending the 3 CDB. Very, very standard. His herding is a little bit wonky. Hasn't gotten his second herd in yet, which could be a problem because CDBs do gather food very, very quickly. Gonna want to get that hunt in. Looks like he's finally going to do it. Nice job there. So not a super high level game, but still higher than me. And as long as you're higher than me, which is most of you, you qualify. Actually, I've done lower level games too. All games are welcome. But Japan doing very standard Japan things, accompanying his llama, which this scout is trying to steal. Come on, Huron Scout. That's just not fair. And yeah, standard stuff. Japan versus France. I don't know who I'd give the advantage in this matchup. I think France, if they want to win, are going to have to do something aggressive because Japan does scale really well, especially if you allow them to boom. And if you give Japan map control, I don't care what civ you are in a world of trouble. He now has his second shipment in, does Den. And yeah, both players aging up now, but Den significantly further ahead of MFD, which playing as Japan, that's pretty standard. Japan has pretty slow age up times, not as slow as it used to be, I feel, but they used to go for like a double shrine start, and now I see the market becoming more and more prevalent when I do see Japan games, which is not that often. But is building with, looks to be 4 villagers, so not going for anything crazy here, is going with the Torii Gates, not the shrine. That's interesting. So what is the plan here for MFD? I don't know, maybe just play defensively, play reactively. We do see 2 CDBs making their way to the center of the map. That could only mean one thing. We are going to see some aggression from Den right away, which I think is smart. He's got the 400 wood quartermaster coming down. And meanwhile, sending 4 CDB. So very standard there. We'll see what he goes for. If he's going to go for muskets, maybe Hussar, maybe Muskus. I'm not exactly sure. Does kind of give away his position there. I never like building an FB and then shooting animals because it kind of cues your opponent in on the fact that there are villagers there, right? If I'm MFD and I see these dead animals, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I didn't shoot those, so my opponent has villagers there, which probably means a forward base, which is why I like to put my villagers on coin or wood, just something that's not as noticeable. But out comes the samurai from the Torii Gates, and maybe going to attack these CDBs, but they are CDBs, so I think they'll be able to take him on. And yeah, they're just going to take him on. He might lose one of his CDBs here. Let's see. 1 barracks is up. Is anything being trained? Ooh, we have crossbows coming out. Okay. I don't know about that. Crossbows seems like a weird thing to train, especially since Japan has Yumi archers, which are just a billion times better. But 5 shrines coming out from MFD. That shipment is absolutely insane. That's over 500 resources, all in wood and all instantly built. And he's going to definitely start queuing up these hunts on the left side of the map. Already has all the foundations placed and sending another 5 shrine wagons. MFD, you cheeky devil. And another barracks coming down. Oh my goodness. Are we going to be seeing Expo Pike? Oh, did I just hop in a time machine back to 2005? Is it 2005? Because that is a classic strategy. Expo Pike, I'm pretty sure this strat has been around, as long as the game has been around. And yep, there it is, 5 pikes coming out and more pikes and crossbows being trained. So, wow, Den going back into the recipe book, going back all the way to the ancient days. Although it's never really stopped being a viable strategy, honestly. I think just H2 pressure in general has been scorned by a lot of new players in exchange for the more boomy H3, H4 stuff. But Expo Pike, I mean, these units, very cost-effective, very cheap, and very, very useful if you get some early damage in. Now, I don't know if he's going to use these to raid the base directly. Maybe he's going to send them around to siege some shrines. What I would love to see MFD do is maybe take like 3 or 4 of these pikes, because is Japan really going to have early cav? Probably not. And just start raiding some of these shrines on the left side of the map. He doesn't know they're here, but he's got to think to himself, man, MFD's got to be putting up shrines, right? Or at least that's what I would think. I always assume that my Japan player is shrining. Even if it's not that many, even if it's not a full-on boom, kind of like MFD is doing here, but making a ton of Ashigerus, which is going to be good. He's got a lot of crossbows. Crossbows are not the best kiting unit, and Ashigerus are a very fast musketeer. So not going to counter as well as maybe like Dutch skirmishers or, United States, because United States just counters everything. But could be useful here. And the pikes do give good siege damage. Turned into Sean Connery there for a second. But no pressures coming in for Den. I think this might be a bit of a mistake here. He's invested a lot of wood and a lot of resources, and he hasn't really done a lot with it as of now. He is finally sieging some shrines. I think he could split up these pikes, maybe 5 and 5, and get a little more damage done, sending 8 crossbows as well. Meanwhile, the villager count is 25 to 22 in favor of MFD, so Den's gonna have to get some early damage in here, or he's gonna be at a disadvantage. 10 Yumis coming out, which is going to even the fight significantly. Yumi archers just so good, and Ashigeru's getting right up on the the crossbows, and this is why we see the crossbows not the most effective unit, especially against Yumis, and look at them, they're just doing so much DPS in the back. More Yumi coming out, which I think is smart from MFD. But putting those pikes into cover mood, can't speak. Cover mode, Den, nice job by him, gonna soak up a lot of HP. And the crossbows are starting to pick off the Ashigerus. We do have to remember that these units are cheap, whereas the Japanese units are quite a bit more expensive. More Ashis, more Yumis, and more crossbows. So, I think France might actually start to push MFD back here, but he's losing a lot of units. And, yeah, we'll see. He hasn't really done a lot of pressure. He's killed a couple of shrines, which is definitely good, but a lot of MFD's economy is just sitting here in the back, pretty unscathed. But maybe he can get up front here, kill a couple of villagers, lots more Yumi coming out, and more Ashigerus. And, don't want to be sieging those buildings. Wasting a lot of damage there. The sentries coming out as well. Den's at 25 villagers, sending Sensui? Oh, okay. That's just the Expo and Pike upgrade. I can't remember the last time I've seen that card. 10% in hit points. Not bad. Not a bad card. Though, I don't know. Maybe 700 gold? Try to get some cavalry out. Losing pretty much all of his pikes. And see, I don't see the use of these pikes in this fight. I think they would be much more useful just going around the map and sieging shrines. I think he could be fighting pure crossbow here. You haven't seen a stable, so it's very unlikely that MFD's going Naginata. Yeah. And I mean, Japan doesn't have any cavalry cards, so you can pretty easily get away with going full crossbow here and be fine. And those pikes would do so much more damage just going around the map killing shrines. Those shrines can be torn down by pikemen very, very quickly. So just a little bit of perhaps a misuse of resources by Den, but he is keeping the pressure on. And MFD has been staying pretty cooped up in his base. He has 27 vills versus MFD has 30 vills versus Den's 27. So, still an advantage for Japan here significantly when you factor in the shrines, though the French villagers are CDBs, so I don't want to do that math right now. But he is sending 3 Hussar, which is going to be good against this many Yumis if he can keep the Ashigarus from just immediately shooting them down. And might lose one of his barracks here. MFD is finally pushing out of his base. Is this going to be too eager? His army's not super large, and the pikes popping out and snaring a lot of the Yumis. The pikes actually proving somewhat useful now, even though they're going down very quickly. The Hussar coming in as well, and the crossbows, if they can cut them off, and they're targeting the Ashigarus. Nice job by Den. And here come the Hussar. They can take a lot of damage as the crossbows continue to target the Ashigaru Musketeers. Pikes coming in from the right flank, and we're gonna see a cleanup here of MFD's forces. The Hussar were not able to do a ton, but they did save that barracks, and they killed a lot of the Japanese units, which we do have to notice here that looks like MFD does have a stable. Naginata's coming out, so he doesn't want that anti-cav to stray too far. Now he definitely needs those pikes involved, and the Naginata is going to come out very quickly. More Hussar on the field. Oh no, get the crossbows away. Nice job here, getting his 2 Hussar actually in the back, and there are very few Ashigaru Musketeers out. And, I thought maybe Den was getting a barracks up, but he's actually running out of food because MFD actually has all of his hunts shrined up. Once we have a break in the fight, I will show that to you. You can see, look at all of these hunts. Both on the left and on the far left. The right side is pretty free though, but so much walking time. Look at how far forward Den's villagers are. He's got, how many vills does he got over here? He's got 11. Oh my God, he's got like 20 vills over here hunting on food. This is a really precarious position for France. But I don't know. I think this Expo Pike Rush could have been pretty successful. I think it's just been a bit mismanaged. But then again, versus Yumis, crossbows are just such a tough unit, so I don't think, if I was Den, I don't know how much better I could pull this off. But MFD has done a good job. He's been taking decent fights, although he did get a lot of his units killed in that pop of the pikemen. More pikemen, more crossbow coming out. I don't know, maybe this is the time that Den transitions. He has pretty good map control. Take the pikes you have left, send them on a raid, and maybe try to start macroing for age 3, I think is your best bet. Because now MFD is sending Daimyo Mototada. And these French villagers are so close. Look at that. They're almost in range of MFD's town center. Oh my God. Against any other civ, this wouldn't work, right? Because those hunts would have gotten eaten right away. But because Japan does not eat food, he's actually able to kind of snipe these hunts, but now the Naginatas are out being bolstered by Daimyo Mototada, and there are very few pikemen here considering that they can be easily kited by the Yumis. Not a lot of crossbows either. I'm a little bit worried about Den here. It just seems like his push, his pressure is starting to fail. And what do you even target here? You can try to target the Daimyo, but he's going to soak up so many hit points. Oh no, getting the crossbow right in the face of the cavalry. Maybe he's trying to draw them in for the pikes, even getting his CDB involved, which I don't think is a bad idea. Hussar's coming out now. I hope he has Great Coats and Blunderbuss researched if he's going to throw his CDBs in, as they will be a lot more effective. Sending 700 coin now. I don't know if he's going to use that to age or just macro and get a lot more Hussars out. That could be what he's doing. He's got so many bills on wood right now because I think that's all he can do necessarily. A lot of Naginatas actually going down here. A pretty good catch by Den. A little bit sloppy there by MFD, and it's just really hard with this many CDBs mixed in. But most of the cav going down now, the pikes going down, but the Naginata force has been depleted. Daimyo Mototada below half health. Is he going to die? No, don't lose the Daimyo, MFD. Oh, what a sacrifice. I'm not sure it was a worthwhile sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice. But we have to think about all of the villager seconds that Den has been losing by getting his vills in that fight. I mean, they were involved for a solid 30, 45 seconds. That's so many resources. And we can see in his totals here, right? He's barely floating 200 food and 100 coin. It's just not looking good. 35 villagers, but so many of them, over half, have not been gathering. So the economy just does not, it does not reflect the number of vills. Meanwhile, MFD has 38 vills, still has a lead, and his vills have been working almost consistently. His shrines, besides a few losses, have been almost untouched. And I think this has been the big mistake for Den. He's left this huge economy of shrines sitting on his side of the map, and he has not contested them. And he's mainly been fighting over this kind of open, useless ground. Yeah, he stole the hunt, but, you know, what did winning that ground do for you? It didn't really hurt MFD, and at the same time, you know, you expended a lot of military in taking that ground. Now he's finally getting some of his pikes on these shrines, which I think is good. Definitely better late than never. And I'm not trying to be overly critical here, by the way. So if I'm coming off as a little more analytical than usual, I apologize. I'm just trying to, I guess I'm trying to give a little bit more meat to these casts, because sometimes I feel like all I do is say what's on the screen, and hopefully offering a little bit of insight into the game and the decisions is something you guys like. But you can let me know in the comments if that's something that you like to see, or you want to just go back to just purely calling the game for fun's sake. We do see some Shinobi out for MFD, but we have quite a cav force here from Den, and there's really almost nothing. Well, actually, now that I say that, he does have some Concha Clubmen. I thought he had almost no anti-cav, but he was hiding them in the bottom of the screen. That little guy. And the pike's coming in now, but the superiority of the Japanese units actually... No, now that the Clubmen are down, the Neginata, they don't do so great against other cav. More Hussar on the way. And if enough of these Hussar live to clean up the Yumis, it could be a pretty dire strait for Japan. More pikes coming out. I think pike production can pretty much halt at this point, right? You've got enough to take down the shrines, and you know, I think Neginata is the better answer. Sorry, I think Hussar is the better answer right now to the Neginata. And now we see a reversal. Now it is Den who has no anti-cav, only 3 pikes. And right as I say, you don't need to make any more pikes. We desperately need pikes, but there's really no army left to save, and just 4 crossbows left. And I think this is where Japan kind of starts to really show their power. Just Yumi archers are so effective. And his economy has had enough time to really settle in and grow in power. And more Hussars coming out now. There's not a ton of Neginata. Actually, this is a pretty bad engagement for MFD. He's not trying to kite with his units at all. Getting more Clubmen involved. I don't know. This is kind of sloppy by both players. We have a lot of running around. We have a lot of units just fighting other units. But I think this is definitely going to go in favor of Den. I can't tell. It keeps switching on me. Oh, now it's definitely going in favor of Den. Although, if those had been 10 crossbows, I would have been much more excited. But units are units, right? And especially since he's got a ton more Neginata in the back. Maybe the pikemen. Maybe I've been proven wrong once again. I'm crapping on the pikemen, but they are more useful than I originally gave them credit for. Cavalry combat coming in. I don't really think he has much else to send. He could send Spice Trade. Or no, sorry, that's not Spice Trade. Economic Theory. He could send Economic Theory. He has quite a few Hussar on the field, so an upgrade isn't the worst idea. Gonna take out this market, which is, you know, good. He's got no ranged infantry, which means those Yumis are gonna be really pesky as long as there's enough cavalry to protect them. And more crossbow, more pike. Really just dedicated to this Expo pike, and you know, adding in the cav was definitely good. It's a bit of an awkward composition though, because you have 2 units that are very heavy in wood, and then you have 1 unit that is very heavy in food and coins. So I don't know, maybe switching to musks at this point is what you would want to do, but I mean, Yumi, that's going to be a bit of a weird composition, but it's going to make the Negis almost useless. And there's a lot of Nagys on the field right now, but if they don't get a good engagement, ooh, they're getting caught in with the pike. There's some club mixed in, and Denden's actually doing a good job getting his cav away. The crossbows are going to just get absolutely murdered, and it's a mosh pit rocking out in the Pampas map. Everybody's just fighting everybody. And once again, MFD actually coming away with a decent win. Oh, he's got some Ashigaros mixed in. Okay, I didn't see those before, but that would explain why he took that fight so hard. And that is the game. Den calls it. That was a really, really cool build. I love seeing just traditional classic vanilla builds. And Expo Pike from France is one of the oldest and the most treasured in my heart. But just not quite enough to break the back of Japan. I think if he had focused on the shrines instead of just fighting out in front of this base for so long, I think he would have had more success because his timing was pretty good. He got enough units out really early, but we will look further into these details. Ladies and gentlemen, follow me to the post game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the post game, and the resources actually were a lot closer than I gave Den credit for, just a few hundred off, despite being down in villagers and not having shrines. So the power of the CDB coming through once again, and military counts also very close, though the units killed about 50 unit difference for MFD there. And a lot of those units, we have to remember, for Den are fairly weak units. So there's a bit of inflation there, but still pretty close. And when we go to the timeline, military unit count staying pretty even trades until the very end, where we see a convincing victory for MFD, ending with 24 units versus Den's 9. And if we go to the villager population, actually really even for most of the game. MFD keeping a slight villager lead until the end, where Den actually took the lead towards the end, but he was going to lose his FB. He was going to lose all the rest of his armies. So I definitely understand the GG there, but that was a good game. That was a classic beatdown. I love seeing Expo Pike, and Den was really close. He almost broke the spine of MFD, but my man MFD holding out till the very end. Thank you once again for sending in your recording, my fellow casting compatriot. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this game. Until next week, have a great day, have a great life. See you later.